Hello, fishy folks. How is it going? It's Alexander Williamson here with The Secret History Living in Your Aquarium. I wanted you guys to have some anticipation. I hope everybody's doing well. Get your popcorn, as Zen Ginger has suggested. Xanadudu, welcome. I see you say, Alexander, really appreciate all you do. Been watching the Wild Caught documentary on YouTube about the Amazonia fish trade. Yes, the Project Piaba funded one, 100%. That's a great one. And then also Alex over at Tank Tested, who used to work for Nat Geo and Discovery and stuff. He's done some pretty cool stuff as well with Project Piaba. And that's kind of one of the things that Ivan Mikolji and I are hoping to do eventually also. So I'll just get this ad/plug out of the way at the beginning here, which is that Ivan and I, we've started a nonprofit. If you didn't hear, I think most of you probably have heard. But his book is still available. There is a discount code. I don't know what day they're taking down the code, but it was for basically half off and free shipping. So this one, the code, you'll have to go back and find my review video of it for that detail. But the point, my ad is not about this book. That's just a heads up if you want this book, which is a pretty sweet book. I mean, some of the pictures are downright incredible. It's 20 plus years of work in the Orinoco. And we've found, setting up this nonprofit, that we're actually going to be facing some issues getting money into Venezuela, because guess what? The U.S. and Venezuela don't get along. And even though it's person to person or nonprofit to person or to a university or whatever, there's like no money allowed into Venezuela right now. It's Cuba's easier to get money into, surprisingly. So we'll have to probably send money into Colombia, and then he'll have to start an expedition in Colombia and work his way from there. But we got Ginger Graves and Zen Ginger. What is going on? Ginger says, my book arrived a few weeks ago. How do you like the book? You like it? To me, it's just like, it's cool and it's got good info, but it's just got such invaluable contextual clues. He tried to take a picture of every fish in their whatever they were doing that day for hours and hours. He tried to take a picture that represented the way they spent their time. So that was that's what I like about the book. But in any case, what I was going to say is that documentary on the Amazon that just came out on YouTube. We want to do that same kind of thing in the Orinoco, because his big push, his big idea, the reason he did this Fishes of the Orinoco is because there's hardly anything on the Orinoco. There's a few British expeditions and things that have gone there, but for the most part, nobody goes there in the Western world. Nobody goes there, period. Even from Venezuela, even from the big cities, no one goes to the southern Orinoco. It is the Wild West. There are pirates, there are tribal groups, there are drug lords, and there are different political militants and things. So it's pretty hairy, but he spent his whole life in Venezuela and knows who to pay and who not to, and all those things, and who to bring as a guide. So I look forward to, maybe someday I'll even get to join him. He's invited me, but I think it's still a little precarious, especially with everything going on in the world. It's a lot of precarious. But yeah, so we want to do that, and we want to do the exact same kind of thing, is get more people involved in catching fish that are indigenous people who otherwise would be strip mining or illegal logging or all the different things that go on in these areas where they really don't have any economic choice about what they're going to be doing. There isn't a whole lot they can do. Everyone is already subsistence economy, so fish and all that kind of stuff. Yes, it is a ponytail. It's not a haircut. Yeah, you're right. It's I didn't realize it was able to be pulled back into a ponytail until I did it the other night, joking around with my wife, and she's like, I just want to take scissors and cut it. So I'm gonna have to be careful. I had a girlfriend in high school who actually did that because I had a long lock of hair in the front and like flock of seagulls style, and she cut half of it so that I'd get a haircut. And I was so pissed. We were camping and I was like 16. Oh, I was mad.
Watch out.
My wife just yelled, "You better watch out." All right, so Jackson Tax, hello. Good to see everyone rolling in. Alan, good to see you. My back is not good, but that's fine. The other night, the other live stream, I did the mistake. If you go back and watch it, I took a muscle relaxer, which I rarely take those, but I took that and my eyelids were so like this. I felt like I looked like Cheech and Chong episode or something going on. So tonight I didn't do that. So I'm a little more sore. We'll see how it goes. But tonight we're going to be talking about rare and expensive plants. So this is kind of like a dreaming episode, whereas most of these plants are anywhere from $50 to $100, if not $200. They're really expensive, really rare plants, especially when you get into the unique traits and things. When you get into like, oh, this one's the variegated pinto version of it, things like that. M&C Aquatic says, Alex, I feel you about the back. I just had my 7TG spinal surgery. Oh, man. 7th, I'm assuming. Man. Yeah, that's the thing is I haven't had actual surgery ever. They've kind of put that off, but I have 5 herniated or bulging discs. Then the ones from the lightning strike, they're worse than bulging or herniated. They actually, the word they use medically, I guess, is obliterated. So it's where there's nothing supporting it other than scar tissue around the spinal column. And so I have to be really careful. Can't do any impact sports, can't jarring stuff, even potholes and stuff in the car. They say to be careful because I had lost feeling in my right leg. I don't have feeling in my right foot or leg for the most part, or even half my butt. It's really annoying right now. Hopefully that's just sciatica and it gets better. Whatever. I'm not here to complain about any of that stuff. You guys already know I had a woo-woo episode about meditating and pain and fish tanks not that long ago. So you can go back and listen to me complain if you want to on that one. I am here to talk about, stuff that's interesting, stuff that's fun. Let's talk about that. So if you guys have any questions, just do @ The Secret History Living in Your Aquarium. Just an easy, quick little, I know that's just quick typing. It's like 1 second of typing. Not the longest channel name ever. Should have come up with a different channel name. Whatever, it's too late now. But yeah, the other thing I got recently is this. This is a little UV light, not a black light, but an actual UV light. And this little guy is able for me to see different things in fish, different things in plants. And so I've just been literally bugging all my fish. Like at night, I just go up to them and shine the UV light on them, and they don't seem to like it. But some of them glow. Some of them, like their organs glow, or their guts glow. Other ones have patterns on them that glow. So it's just a reminder yet again of how, and plants too. Some plants fluoresce under UV light. And then that's just the range that we see when this light bombards it. There's also even lower frequency light. Lower wavelength light that they could also be putting off for other creatures. Like, for instance, eagles can see that. There's lots of fish that can see that too. So they can hunt that way. But a lot of plants, if you look at them, yeah, they're a beautiful pink and red and purple or whatever. But when you look at them with a UV, high-tech UV camera, not just shining a black light, but actual UV imaging, a lot of times it's an interesting pattern, but it's always the center of the flower is just lit up and glowing with UV light. That's because a lot of insects see ultraviolet light too. So that's kind of what started my looking around plants with this at night. And it's interesting, some of them glow more at night. Don't know if it's just because it's dark and that shows up more. I feel like I can kind of judge that. But yeah, so that's an interesting thing you can run around and do. But the other thing that fluoresces like crazy is cyanobacteria. Even though it's green, it is bright purple, burgundy, like just a crazy color when you put black light on it. And it doesn't show up well on camera or on film. And so I want to do an episode of that. Maybe if I get like a UV filter or something like that, I could figure out a way for it to show up, but I'm not sure. Jackson Tax says, Secret History, did you manage to have any guppies survive that I gave you back? Yeah, so I still have probably 30 of each kind, and babies and adults inside in my house. But most of the ones that went outside, I did save about, I think, 6 of each kind in a tank inside, and then just let them hang out. And they haven't multiplied because they're in a 2.5 gallon tank just hanging out. You know, I think that, I mean, the raccoons at first, I thought that's what got them because they are really pretty and they're not the most, with like Dumbo fins, they kind of are slow moving sometimes, but then the more Endlery ones should have lived. And what I think it really was just from the heat, from being all the way up into the 85-degree range again 2 weeks ago. And then at one of the nights we got all the way down to 48 degrees. And I think that night was the night that did them in. I got some babies out of there and stuff. And like I said, I mean, maybe 15 of each kind survived. I probably started with a little bit less than that of each kind. So kind of a bummer. Basically, I think most of the adults perished, and then the juveniles that were growing out, that's kind of the ones I saved, and the new babies. But yeah, so we still have them. The line's still going. And I'm curious how yours are doing with all that. I know you have a lot bigger volume of water, which makes it so that the temperature doesn't fluctuate as much, which is a lot safer. Somebody just asked, Waterkeeping just said, I'm treating Camellinus worms with fenbendazole. Will this hurt my bacterial filtration? No, that kills worms, nematodes, things like that. And the way it kills them, usually most of those products, they actually screw up the osmotic regulation in that creature. And so it actually, there's 2 ways they can work usually. And one is they swell up with water, so they can't regulate how much intake of water those cells have. The other one is the opposite, where they dehydrate. So it creates a salt deficiency difference in the general whatever ambient environment, and then they can basically shrivel up like a raisin, and it kills them that way. So yeah, well, Lady Diane is here, and I think that, and UG Aquatics is here. Bunny Viper, M&C, let's see, who else we got before we start? Zen Ginger Allen, Carolyn, hello, good to see you. Rico Stan, of course, always good to see you, sir. 3G, Misfits, Reptiles, and Aquatics, always good to see you. Jay Oliver, David G. Patty, what's going on? Lara Sutton, always good to see you as well. Joshua, Pete, what's going on? If you're still with us, I know you're in Perth, a little bit of a time difference. Mystery Snail Guardians, Jerome, Xanadudu, so many good people rocking with us tonight. All right, let's, fenbendazole won't kill leeches. Levamisole sometimes will, but usually at that dosage that you need to, it will kill shrimp and things sometimes snails. Levamisole is going to be your more industrial strength kind of a dewormer. There are even stronger ones, gram to gram, but fenbendazole, flubendazole, those ones are probably the safest / most effective for fish in general. But there are some cases of leeches, worms, and usually they're not true worms in the sense they're nematodes, and yeah, it's just different the way they function. Like a tapeworm versus an earthworm, they're different by far. Naomi H2O, hello, welcome. I'm glad you joined us here, and also new local Austin, welcome. Have a sip of the Dr. Pepper. Looks like we're running a lean crew tonight with 47 folks watching, according to my little estimator, which isn't very accurate. Chubbs, what's going on, brother? And let's see, what else was I going to say? Oh, yeah, I don't know how I like the Friday night thing. How do you guys like the Friday night thing? Do you want me to stay at Friday nights? I kind of am tempted to go back to either Saturdays or even honestly early on a Friday, like 4 o'clock on a Friday or something like that. I don't know. Just, yeah, something about it. But let's hop in. We're going to go over in depth, in detail, in pictures, what I think 10 of my kind of top 10 plants are, if I have a high-tech tank. Not all of these are high-tech, but some of them definitely are. Most of these are real expensive plants, ones that are the rare ones that you would you know what, I'm going to do this in a reverse order, in that I'll give you guys some examples of plants, so if you're plant people, maybe you'll get it in your mind. I'm going to give you the honorable mentions first. So I think Pogo Stem and Downaway Hellfry Red means morning star or star of the morning. They're a nice one. Let's pull this up real quick. Bippity boppity boop. That's not what I wanted. That's what we wanted. All right. So Downaway, Pogo Stem, and Hellfairy is, or Hellfry is what you'll hear it known, like called out as. This is the normal form, but there is a very expensive form. There is a red form, and it needs a ton of light, but it can be a really fun one. There's also a white form now. This is the red, and you can see how easily they probably just went from red to white. But these guys will usually go for each little plantlet. I mean, this could be one whole plant, but you just don't know which one's the mother plant. And I mean, just let's find one of the sites that's like, yeah, exactly, 3 stems. Oh, that's Kimberly. But for one stem, 17 bucks, not even shipped. One plant, 25 bucks, not shipped. One plant, $12.99. So I mean, $12.99, I don't know, must be real small, or they're just doing good deals, because usually it's at least 20 bucks for a little plant, a plant that's like a little air plant, you know, like the size of a silver dollar. Let's see here. I saw a question I should get right before I start all this, though. I need your help one more time. I need to change the tank from a 67 liter to an 87 liter. I was like to change substrate. Which way do I recommend? I recommend doing it in stages. So take it all out if you can, but take it out like an eighth at a time, and then every 2 to 3 days, check, make sure that your nitrates, your ammonia haven't gone up. TDS can get kicked up real high too. So if you have something that's sensitive to that, I mean, if you have Caridina shrimp, then you're going to want to do it like a 1/12 of the tank at a time. But if you're doing, you know, guppies or cichlids or live berries in general that like harder water anyways, and you've got plants in there to help work through the stuff, and you've got good filtration, then you might be able to do it as quick as a 1/4 of the tank at a time. And it just depends. If you're putting in an active substrate, if you put in like ADA Amazonia, that stuff has ammonium, and it has nitrates, nitrites, has all the good minerals and stuff, but it also leaches those for the first few months, first few weeks heavily, like to the point where you really shouldn't have fish in there. But plants love it. So if you just had plants, you could replace it right away. But with the fish, which I assume you have, you got to go slowly. I have a whole video on that called How to Switch Out Substrate on an Established Tank. And it has about 20 minutes of details on ifs and or buts and like how you should handle different things. And I actually went and did it like while I was doing the video. So yeah. All right, let's get in here. Let's get back on to looking at these bad boys over in the plant section. I find you very enjoyable on the replay as a novice. There's so much info. I learned a lot from every stream. Well, thank you so much, New Local Austin. You know, that's my goal here is when we go over, even if I'm going over something we've discussed maybe 2 years ago on the channel or a year ago, or it's a question I've answered before, I always try to think of something and keep doing research and things so that I have something new to kind of say along with it. Even if it's not, even if we're talking about this plant, like the fact that it means in Thai, star of the morning. I didn't know that 2 years ago. So maybe for someone who knows all about Downaway, Pogo Stem and Health Fairy, it's no big deal. And they're like, boring. But hopefully if they see this channel, maybe they can pick up, you know, bits and pieces. And it makes it a little more worth watching. And if you're completely new, it may feel like too much info, but just take the info that you need or pause it, you know. Also for community members, in the community tab, if you're a channel member, that is, which is only $1.99 a month. And I put my notes from this, all these that I have taken for this video. And for this video, I consulted Tom Barr and Crystal Castleman. Crystal Castleman wrote my very favorite book on plants ever. Just the Bible of aquatic plants. I mean, this is hands down the undisputed. I mean, there's not a better book. The 2019 English edition. You can get it from her website. I still don't think it's available on Amazon or anything again yet. You can get the older versions on Amazon, and they're good. They have 750 species maybe, but this touches on, I think, like 1,500 species. We're going to talk about like this one here tonight, which is Aponigeton crispus. And there's the red version. There's now a purple version, which wasn't even around 2 years ago when she made this book. Purple version's from Singapore, as far as we know. And it was basically somebody it mutated, and they'd been selecting for red. They'd been putting it in environments with high anthocyanins or chemicals like lycopene and carotenoids and stuff like that. And then basically we can go on a little tour of my tanks later too, I suppose. But it is purple, not just slightly red or slightly pink or something. It is like, when you think of the color purple, it's as bright and as strong of a purple as you could get. But that plant book is a lifesaver. And so I consulted the book, and then also I had a couple questions. So I messaged her. And also Tom Barr, the Barr Report, and that's Barr, B-A-R-R. I feel like what was it, South Park or something, where the Mongolians just say bar, 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 bar. But yeah, so let's go back to this format. Okay. Yeah, so another honorable mention was going to be Pogo Stamon Kimberly. And this one's not named after Barbie's sister. This one is named after the region it's from, which I believe is in Australia, right? Kimberly. Well, let's double check that. Now I feel like I don't want to tell you something wrong. Let's see here. Oh, it opened in a new window. Hold on, let's do it in here. Pogo Stamon Kimberly. Now this is one that Bentley Pasco used to have and grow like for profit. May still. I definitely spelled that wrong, I think. Yeah, you can see here, it can look a lot of different ways. And that's really going to be the truth with a lot of these plants. If you give it low light, no CO2, or medium light, it's going to look like this. It's just going to be a green plant. But you can get it to, there's a whorl, which is like spiraling effect mutation. And then there's also in here, there's, I mean, there's red, there's pink, there's yellow. So really, this is all dependent on how much fertilizer, how much light, how many hours of light you're throwing at it. It can make a big difference depending on that. But let's see here. I was just curious on the Kimberly. Maybe someone in the stream is telling me. Oh, you had a huge patch of Hellfry Red, but you reset your tank and you lost 40. Oh man. Wow. That's a bummer. UG Aquatics, yeah. Do they have aquarium insurance? They do have insurance for your house flooding from an aquarium, but not for when you screw up your plants because you did something you shouldn't have, unfortunately. But that I know of anyhow. I mean, you can get anything insured technically if you get, you know, a custom written thing and you have underwriters research it for you like rich people do. But no. So I'm curious now if the Pogostemon Kimberly is actually Stellatus variation. I think it's its own. Yeah, okay. Dawson is going to be the variation that looks like Kimberly of the Stellatus, which is also known as octopus plant. So you can also see a lot of people. I always mention it because it gets shown on Aquarium Co-op, and a lot of people watch that channel. You can see here what it would look like if you grew it with CO2. That's the difference with the octopus plant between that and, I mean, these are all like nice pictures, but it's a scraggly, scrawny plant in low light, low ferts, not soil, in gravel, you know. Stellatus octopus, it's a fine plant, but it looks like this instead of how it could look, you know. So that's the other thing to keep in mind with these plants is take it all with a grain of salt, that this is if you're raising them in optimal conditions. Some of these tanks that you'll see pictures of, they actually will grow in tanks that are so extreme that you would never have fish survive in them. Yeah, like look at this one. That is ridiculous. That's purple octopus plant. I don't know what this is. INR, is that Indian rupees or ruble? Not rubles, rupees. Yeah, maybe that might be what that is. I'm not sure, but whatever 524 is, I'm assuming it's not that expensive, but it's not crazy. John S says Madagascar lace is the only aquarium plant. Aerocalum blood vomit is an interesting one. Yeah, Aerocalum blood vomit is a cool plant. I'll show you guys it because blood vomit, I mean, with a name like blood vomit, it has to be good. Oh, geez, sorry. Watch me get my stream knocked off. All right, that's better. Still, I don't know why they gave it such a gnarly name when, like, done well, like, that's as good as you're going to get with it, pretty much. Like these pictures here. 2 Hour Aquarist is another great website, but this is kind of a funky one. Aqua Lush, Aquasabi, they're good websites too. But yeah, you get this kind of cool fade from pink, purple, red, orange, green, you know. And they're tricky though. But they actually were on my list of notable. And then right here in this picture, look at that downlight red that they're growing with it. Or that could be pink. They grow together well. So you'll see that as well as one that is on my list, which I think it's on my list, is it? Let me see. Oh, it's not. So we'll talk about it too, which is Ludwigia ovalis. Ludwigia ovalis, pink or purple. And that's another one that you can grow in the same conditions. This one we'll get to. We're going to talk about this one momentarily. Whoops. This guy here. That's on my list. It's beautiful. But here we go. So this is another pretty expensive one. It's going to be at least like 10 to 15 bucks a stem, and it's a stem plant. Under light that's not extreme, this is probably still CO2, and yet the Ludwigia ovalis pink is only this intense. This is the way you get plants like this. I want people to know that it's not as simple as CO2 and then estimated index dosing, and you add ferts, CO2, and substrate and root tabs. No, the way this gets done is you cut the crown off the top of the plant. You cut the crown off and you replant that crown over and over. So you plant the crown, it grows up again. So that crown now is really bright. It's had two journeys to the top, and it keeps getting redder and redder, pinker and pinker, whatever it may be, each time that you cut that crown off a stem plant. So this works even in a low-tech aquarium. You can take just that top dense 3 inches off a plant, replant it, grow it up. Each time you should get another inch or two out of it with good color right below that. And then from there, you just cut it again, cut it again. So they do that, and it really, that stress of it too causes the plant to grow like that. Now, I happen to know one of the tanks that a lot of these pictures came from on one of the people that's selling on Etsy. And I used to know Han Tran from Han Aquatics really well, his setup and everything. And the lights are not like a lot of times on this level when they're growing, you know, kind of like things like this. They're not like Fluval lights. Like that's not high light to this level of hobby sometimes. Odyssey is a company, Kessel, ADA, that's starting to get into the range. But a lot of these people are using actual grow lights for like marijuana plants, or grow lights for orchids and things like that, where you're just blasting with light. And when that happens, when you do that, you're really only doing that for a few hours a day. Now, Ovalis Yellow or Golden is one that's really cheap, $2 a pop. Yet they grow at the same freaking rate almost. Not exactly the same rate, but close. And that's one that frustrates me, is that you know, I can see where like a Ludwigia Super Red, for instance, which I wouldn't put on my list of ultra rare plants. I'll start getting to the 10 actually soon, but Ludwigia Super Red, this is a common plant, a really affordable stem plant usually. Yeah, $8.99. I mean, usually you can get it for a lot cheaper than that. You can usually find it. I can find it anyways locally. This I found in the wild right by my house this year. That's what was in my ponds this year. But you can get the Super Red very, very, very red. I'm gonna refer everybody to Tom Barr, the Barr Report again. When it's not underwater, it looks like this, but you can tell that you're onto something basically, or how red it's going to be, because a lot of times, you know, nurseries like Florida Aquatic Nursery, they sell a lot of the little cup plants in Rockwool, like Aquarium Co-op. They get supplied by them, or at least they used to a lot. And then they try to turn it into submerged. They try to transform them while they're in the warehouse. And depending on how quickly they sell the plants, they manage to do that, or they don't, or they get halfway, or whatever. But when you have the immersed form, which is grown with just the roots underwater, as we know, and full of nutrients. I mean, bombarded with nutrients so that they grow really fast. Then you don't need the CO2 because the atmospheric CO2 is already higher than any sort of gas CO2 that you're going to put off in the water for the most part. That's usually the case. But when you're seeing like myriophyllum that looks like this red and stuff, a lot of times you're seeing kind of just intense, the far end of the spectrum. But this is one that actually will show up and look like this for you, even in a low-tech tank. But it's really the high light that's going to keep it in the red rather than turning to kind of a bronze and then green and then kind of melting. If you don't get it in the highlight, it'll I see burned right there. But yeah, you'll get it more like that, and you wanna definitely keep it doing its crazy thing, and you'll get those crazy colors if you're dosing all your micronutrients and very low nitrates usually. This is one that iron isn't going to hurt, but yeah, here's a good picture too. This is how the farmers, whether it's outside or in a tub, this is how they grow this plant, because you can grow it so much quicker above the water. It'll grow 2 to 3 inches a day under good light, like down in Florida. So that's how it gets. I mean, that's how it's happened. Let me take a look at the chat. Why, hey, Lemal, 3717. What's that about? I appreciate it greatly. Thank you so much. I'll buy some plants with that for sure. There's an Irish sprinter named Tom Barr. But thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. Very sweet of you. And oh, it's your old nickname, huh? 3717. Is that some leet speak? ETLT. I'm trying to think what that would spell out. Something like that. But thank you. Really appreciate that. All right, so let's keep trucking along here with plants. Again, thank you so much. Drift and Driftwood. Hello and welcome. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss any other questions or comments. So I'm just checking back in with y'all. Shanna, hello, welcome. How's it going? Good to see you. Your old last name. All right, let's see here. So on my other mentionables, Nymphea micrantha. I have a whole video on that. It's the blue or purple lotus flower, and it's a metallic morph that I had, a metallic purple morph, and it's also mildly psychoactive, supposedly. There's a lot of contention on that, but interesting read nonetheless. And then Barclaya longifolia. That's a beautiful plant that you'll get up to 2 foot long leaves. They look like rabbit ears. They're shaped like a big old floppy rabbit ear, and they can turn really, really like blood red, or they can be like a light red, or they can be pink, can be green. So they come in a range of colors. They're a bulb plant, and they're really easy to grow. They need very little light, and they need very little nutrition, really. The other one that I have in my tanks is Hygrophila polysperma rosevig or ramosior, which is or sunset. There's so many names for the thing, but it's just a really beautiful plant that mutated in 1978 it's found in India, and it's called ditchweed there, literally, or marsh ditchweed, pond ditchweed. And it's the variegated plant that's bright pink in my tanks, in my rimless tanks in this room that I show you guys frequently. Let's see here. All right. How do you @ someone? You just hit the @ symbol and then type their name. That's type their. But it won't show up sometimes on mobile. I don't know why that is, like if you're on your phone. So then the other one that I really like is, let me type it out. I can type it better than I can say it. I'm not actually seeing. So it's Syngonanthus bellum is what it usually goes by. They may have renamed it. Let's see. Which I think translates roughly to like beauty or pretty. But this is a one found, I believe, in South America on the Pantanal. And it's a really crazy, it's got a whirly top. This says Tonina. That's not Tonina. Or it could be, I guess, but I've never seen Tonina look like that bushy. But it's got these whirly tops that are really fun. And it's a stem plant. These are just all very Dutch aquascapes. See where they're planting? They're planting very close together. They will plant, you can plant them singularly and they will grow more like this one here. And then you can also kind of, if you've got light that's coming from the top, but you also have diffused light in the room or light coming in the window, they will turn their head or their crown, they'll turn towards the light, and you'll get these really cool Dr. Seuss looking plants. They look like truffalo trees or whatever from the Lorax. So they're kind of cool. This is very low tech growth here, but you can get them a lot denser. The nodes, the distance between the nodes, you can get far more intense. Here they've got all sorts of, that's a really cool picture because it's got all the different variations of them. And there are quite a few. There's a giant version, there's a mini version, there's a hair or narrow version. But yeah, so that's another one of my favorites. Yeah, I guess those are the ones I wanted to honorably mention. But let's start this off with the one that I always talk about, and that is Loganandra. Wait, Loganandra. Eboldii. It's hard because when I'm working on this, the other screen, I can't see this screen with you guys in your comments. Let's see here. Let's see. Just taking a look, make sure I didn't miss any at Alex's. I try to be nice to everyone. I'm trying to be nice to everyone, but I appreciate y'all's sentiments. 503, Shannon, thank you so much for the $2.99 super sticker. You are my hero. You are my heroine. Watch, I'll get demonetized for that. So that's for you. And I mean that in the classical literary sense. All right, let's see here. So Loganandra Eboldii is one of my very favorite plants. I love this plant. If you haven't seen it in person, seek it out. This is a great pictorial representation of the plant. It can come in every color depending on the way light's hitting it. This is an illustration, but this is very accurate to what the human eye would see, this reflection like this. That's natural. That's just Loganandra Eboldii. It says red, but this is a botanical illustration. So here we go. The red one, actually what it is it has all the same glistening effect where it's a color change dependent on where you look at it from. But that one is the color changing always shows off as red. So you'll see here, it looks very red in between, and it'll be green from one angle, and then it'll be red. And there's a green variant, there's a red variant, there's a black variant now that's brand new. I think that this is what they might be calling, like, it says red underneath, ignore that. This, I think, is going to be about what the black variant looks like. And then there is European red, and then there's American red, which now they're calling pink, because that's one that's in tissue cultures, but it kind of comes off as the actual leaf itself is pink, and then the color can be red or pink or green reflecting off of it. So in America, they changed the color of the actual leaf tissue, whereas in Europe, they changed the color of the iridescence or the sparkle. Like Bucephalandra has kind of that metallic sparkle. This has this beautiful, just color changing iridescence to it. It looks like mother of pearl or something. And these plants, you can get some that'll get pretty darn big if they're happy and in the right conditions, which Logonandra boldi discovered originally in 1931 in Kerala, India. And then the Munich Botanical Garden Society came out with the pink and the red and the green German or European style in the late 1980s. But now in the last 5 to 10 years, the black, the bleeding heart, and the silver style have all come out. And it is a slow growing plant, pretty easy plant. Leaves really like it's a long time. They grow out and then they're there for 6 months to a year. It grows in rosettes, even though it's not a, it's not, I mean, it has roots and everything. It's not a rhizome plant. It's not like a sword plant with like the mother kind. I mean, it's kind of like a sword plant, I guess would be the closest thing. No bulb or anything. And it will send out some runners, but you can also split the rosette in down the middle. I'm trying to find a picture with roots. But I just bought, or I will be buying, I should say, Logonandra boldi silver, which I have one already in my aquarium. Here's another beautiful, you can see the color change there, the purple and the pink. I think that's the bleeding heart, actually, even though it's being called red here. A lot of times the labels are wrong. Again, down here you can see this one's being called red. Clearly this is not the same plant. So somebody's just getting creative or stupid with the naming. And then I've always loved the silver powder variant. So Logonandra silver powder. And when Alan, who's going to be one of the judges on our Aquascape competition. So I have one of these plants. It's not doing well right now. It's about 4 years old, and it's just haggard. And now snails are trying to ruin my life with it. Oh, man, sorry. But it shines like metal. It looks just like metallic nail polish. And then it's green underneath. Now they're working on the red. There is a version of the silver and red right here, but it's not quite as good. There's also this one, which is black and red, and it is just insane. And then there's chocolate too, which these are going for right now cheap as houseplants. This is a weird thing. So $15 for the houseplant. So that's on land version. However, if you buy it from an aquarist, like in Japan or something, from an aquarium shop, a lot of times these tissue cultures are going for like $200. Not tissue cultures, but actual rooted plants. So it's a very odd market. We got this one. Alan and I split the cost. He got it, then he propagated it, and then sent me half. And I got the red and pink variety at the same Aquatic Gardeners Association World. We went to the World in 2019. We went to the World Summit or conference. And Karen Randall, who wrote the book Sunken Gardens, she's the one who's responsible for bringing this exact one back. So yeah, Mysterious Outdoors, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Appreciate it. Any super chats tonight are definitely going towards rare plants. I will take a look at your channel for sure. And let's see here. Bleeding Heart. Okay, yeah, that's the Bleeding Heart, the red and the black one. But let's pull that up. Yeah, Logonandra Bleeding Heart. It's just so pretty. But yeah, we paid almost $200 at an auction for it. 3 or 4 years ago. And yeah, see, there's some Bleeding Heart. But there's different grades of it, that's for sure. I mean, some people have really high quality versions and others not so much. And it just depends on how it's grown too. And then also, like you can see the silver here, there's also silver that has different markings. Rather than being looking like streaks of paint, you can get different versions. Now, the reason I'm spending all this time on the variations and things of this one in particular is so that I could tell you guys essentially that all plants are going to work this way. You know, I also hey Lemal, I did a live stream about my favorite. Actually, it might not have been a live stream, but I did a whole thing about my favorite aquarium books, and I list my favorite plant ones. There's 3 plant books that you should definitely get, and the first and most expensive one, but you pretty much don't need others at the moment. I'm sure in a year you will. Is this one, the Crystal Castleman one? Crystal with the CH and Castleman, Kasslemann. But yeah, there's like 750 pictures in there, 1,500 species, I believe, and just good info. Like she knows who brought what plant where. She is the foremost expert probably on aquatic plants. I'm noticing that I'm not able to hit new comments. I can't scroll down on the feed. So I'm curious what's up with that. Richard McCarthy, what's up? Good to see you. Oh, thank you so much. Lemo, killing it tonight. I appreciate it. Lady Diane, hello. Fish Tropic, BJ Palmer. Oh, you learned the super sticker. Thanks. Whoa, that's a real nice looking book you got there. Where did I get it? Yeah, I got it from Crystal Castle. What's up, Alan? I was just talking about you, Alan. And thank you, as always, buddy. But we're just going over Lagonandra me bold eyes and how pretty they are and how they're probably my favorite rare plant. They're not so rare in the tissue culture forms, but like I said, they're getting more common in their common forms. That's a dumb statement, but yes, the red and stuff. But silver still, I mean, the cheapest I've found it, and that's non-retail, that's from a hobbyist, I'm paying $30 for one right now, for a little starter one for these. And it's just a beautiful plant. But this one, I mean, if they could get them all to look like this while alive and healthy, that would be an accomplishment. I haven't seen quite that extreme. But there is this new one, this black one, and I believe Alan has it. So I'm really curious to hear how it goes. Now, this may be something about the phenotype and stuff, like the numbers and the letters. I don't know exactly. A lot of times with new rare plants, like here's a longer leaf Lagonandra. There are, this might not be Lagonandra me boldi, honestly, but there are various plants that are in the rare plant category, I'd say, where we don't have a name for it yet. And yeah, here's what most bleeding heart that I've seen looks like, honestly. And then it has a metallic color changing sheen on top of that too, which is, I mean, it's a great way. It's such a centerpiece plant. Or if you get 2 or 3 little ones in kind of a triangle in your aquascape, it's just killer. 15 to 20 for silver powder is what Alan says you've seen. That's good. Yeah. Yeah, Alan has it. Yeah, right on. So I'd love to see that in person too, you know. So let's see here. Who else is anybody else sneak into chat while I was drooling over here? Books. Look at secondhand bookstores first. Yeah. Or your fish clubs too. Yeah, Driftwood. I am live. Yes, sir. You are with real people that understand you. Fish Tropic. You will never pay for a plant. Trimming, please. Well, I can understand that sentiment with how many plants there are. you know, I trade plants a lot, and that's how I've gotten a hold of a lot of mine. So let's go down the list. The next one is going to be Ludwigia, or Ludwigia, as some people say. Ludwigia. I spelled that wrong anyways, Ludwigia. Senegalensis, which is a beautiful plant. And if you know what you're doing, boom, you can grow it like this or like this. I've been able to get this. The veins are very interesting in that the plant, it needs green. So plants need green. They need the chlorophyll to photosynthesize. But if they have enough light and enough nutrients, they don't need as much green. And if the wavelengths of light are correct and vegetative growth and things like that, and then here it is above water, not as spectacular in my opinion. But one thing to note is that if a plant is naturally red and the variegation in it tends to stick with a red color, and by that I mean you see the little veins in here being red, it's because the chlorophyll is still around those veins, protecting it from light. Just like they don't want to get sunburned, we don't want to get sunburned, they tan. And these plants tan by using xanthophylls and anthocyanins are the two chemicals, and a combination of red and blue chemicals. They can be purple, they can be orange, you know, it depends. But that's where you get this stuff going on. And it looks like a very different pattern in reverse of the center there. But what that is that's just green mixed with the red. And instead of looking like a brown or something, it actually comes out as a light green with very subtle light red. It looks like kind of like pink and lime green end up making kind of this yellow color, like they do in a TV display too. But you can also get it really dark if you want, if you have high light. And there it is with the other plant that we were just talking about too. But Ludwigia senegalensis, discovered in 1940. It's an African plant found in Senegal, go figure. But it can be found in the Congo, all the way down through the Congo, Zimbabwe, and Sudan, and all the way up to Mali, Sierra Leone, and then all the way east to Cote d'Ivoire, up north, as well as Liberia, and then going down all the way to Angola. And so it's got quite a range. But it lives in the streams and flooded ponds and watering holes, basically. It likes a little bit of shade from other plants, but it still needs strong light. It also needs heavy CO2, and it's one that likes it a little warmer at 25 to 30 degrees Celsius. It's known as the creeping marsh plant in its local areas. And it used to be called Ludwigia guinea or guineensis before it was called Ludwigia senegalensis in modern day. Yeah, arcuata is another great one. I see people mentioning, Steven is mentioning, and then let's see here, who else was it? UG Aquatics is mentioning Ludwigia inclinata white. Yep, so that's actually, I mean, it's out of order, but you know, I'm gonna, whatever, I'll be doing whatever, there's no important order. So let's see here. Yeah, Ludwigia inclinata Cuba was going to be the next one I was going to hit, which I know there's a lot of Ludwigias, but there's a lot of cool Ludwigias. Ludwigia X lacustris, we'll look at that real quick. It's not on my list of top 10, but you guys are getting like a top 20 list tonight because you guys are rocking out, super chats are flowing, and I'm just feeling foxy. So that's in my tanks. You guys have seen that. I grow this one a lot. It's a natural hybrid, but this is it right here. It's just a very unique looking plant, and it towers very nicely when you trim it. Just looks real slick. It can also look like a big old mess this is different though. This is Ludwigia arcuata, narrow leaf. This can come in white variations, red variations, and wide and narrow alike. It's kind of an interesting one. But it kind of has these broader leaves at the base and then these little teeny needle leaves that spring out of it. I'll show you that real quick too while we're all here. And so it can kind of turn into this like Frankenstein's monster mess like this sometimes. And then if you have algae in your tank, forget it. It like starts growing in between all of this for some reason. It always gums up the works whenever I grow that stuff. Algae always finds that one quick. But Ludwigia Cuba white is one of my favorite ones. And I mean, you can get some really cool looking plants here. And these actually, I would say these are probably the most low maintenance white plants, even though they're not stark white. But there's different varieties where you can get bigger, smaller, needle leaf, narrow leaf, broad leaf. This is it normally, the Cuban Ludwigia inclinata or inclinata variant Cuba white. You can also get whorled or spiral. Sometimes it's called like twister, I think. Let's see. Let's see if I can find a picture of it. I've only seen that one a few times. Twister. Or whorled. Let's see if whorled might do it. The trick. I don't think this one will. Whorled white. Whorled. But there are a lot of Ludwigias, and yeah, so some of them like this, you can also have a mutation in Ludwigias where it starts to spiral and it looks like a tornado, or I guess that's the effect that they want to say. Ludwigia pantanal is another one that we could have talked about today. It can be anywhere from pink to red to bright orange to, I mean, it's just all over the board. So Rotalas are a great group of plants. But we'll move on. The Rotala inclinata Cuba white was discovered originally. The original version was in 1944. The white variety was discovered in 2003. And the world version was made in Munich in 2009 by creating a hybrid in a tissue culture. Now, Crystal Castleman mentions in her book that she actually went to the Rio Aro River in Cuba and found the white version of the plant in the wild. And she found it in very soft water, TDS of like 40 to 60. And it had CO2 present in the water at something equivalent to like three bubbles per second would be in like a 40 breeder, or like a 90p. So real high CO2 to the point where it's a little concerning for the fish. And she also noted that the white one happened to be in an effluent runoff of higher than normal nutrients. So that means that basically it was probably a farm or something nearby. And because, like I said, if it doesn't have the chlorophyll, the green parts of it, it's not going to be able to photosynthesize as well. So the less of that that's gone, less of it, or the more of that that's hidden under those bright colors and stuff, means the more light it's getting, but it also means the more nutrients it's getting. And then the colors that are happening could be from the plant, but it could also be from just the environment. And with that Ludwigia inclinata white, that one needs so much light and stuff, but that it needs extra nutrients or it'll die. And it's the same with like pinto and stuff like that. Yeah. Let's see here. I'm just checking out the chat real quick. Did somebody just join as a member? Amy 5 Aquatics. Welcome. I appreciate it. There's all the notes from tonight are also online for the members. Alan Carter, hello. Who else do we got sneaking in now? We've got Kay, we've got Randy Roman. Yeah, Crips. We'll get to Crips. We love Crips in my house. And by we, I mean I. Let's see here. All right, let's keep on trucking. What's orange and yellow, Ludwigia, right there? The orange and yellow, that is the Senegalensis. Probably is what you were looking at. When we say highlight, so we mean light periods for longer, or do we mean Kelvin? Okay, that's a great question. So what it means when I say highlight, and what a book says, that there's kind of two highlights, and it's unfortunate that our hobby works like this, but it's high, and it's measured in par, or it used to be. Now people are starting to measure it in other things too, but Kelvin is helpful too, to have the par and the Kelvin, because you need to know if it's a reddish light, then that's for flowering usually. Whereas if it's a bluer light, anything below 6,500 down to 4,500 or so would be more for flowering. Whereas 6,000, actually more like 6,000 to and below, and then 6,000 to 7,500 would be like vegetative growth. Now, if you're not into plants, or don't know them that well yet, this is all stuff you can come back to. But basically, it's on a spectrum from red to blue, essentially, or violet, ultraviolet to infrared, and the visual spectrum is in between. But when we say highlight, it means more intensity of light. Just because any light you have in your house is never going to get anywhere close to the sun. It's the par in there is never going to get close to the sun. By the way, Naomi H2O, thank you so much for becoming a member. Appreciate it greatly, and welcome. If you have any questions, whether they're during a live chat or not, just drop them. I try to be really responsive to everyone that I can. So in any case, yeah, the light intensity, you get your lights like a Fluval 3.0. That's a pretty good light. I think that's a good highlight for most books. But when we get into these specialized plants and it says highlight, a lot of times that doesn't cut it. You need 2 or 3 of those to equal that, or you would need like grow lights, like silver oxide, or silver halide, or the halogena. There's all sorts of, there's nickel. There's a lot of different lights out there. It's more like grow lights for marijuana, for terrestrial plants, that you start getting into, like replicating the sun, because you need the UVA and the UVB, and you need, whereas LED, yes, there's some that can replicate that now, but it's never, when it has to go through the water too, it's even more intense. So some of these setups are just bonkers expensive, crazy to set up properly. Or you could put them outside, especially if you live, somewhere in equatorial world, or tropics, subtropics. But yeah, I mean, then you're always battling too, unless you live in the tropics. So in the tropics, you have consistent lighting. And that's why most of these plants in our hobby that get popular are kind of from the tropics or subtropics. Lighting doesn't change a ton. Here, if I were to put it outside in Seattle, some of the year it would have 18 hours of light, and other times of the year it would have 8 hours of light. But yeah, I mean, you can use a grow light for heavy duty growing of orchids and tropical plants and things like that. And it gets hot. It puts off a lot of heat. But when you go visit Florida, like our next plant on the list actually is going to be Rotala, Florida, which is a Ramosior. But this is just a beautiful plant. I went down to Florida. There's some videos of me down in Florida in some springs, and we actually saw this plant. And I wanted to jump out of the tour. Like, we were on a glass bottom boat looking at fish and stuff, manatees. And I wanted to get out and like go get this so badly. And there is even an alligator in the same video that I was filming. So above water, it's going to look really different and not as cool. But underwater, this is a plant that grows straight up. Rotala ramosier. Sometimes it goes by Rosevig, but Florida. And this is a plant, believe it or not, from Florida. This seems to be what I've seen a lot of times for a stem of any size. It's going to be 15 to 20 bucks usually. It's a slow growing plant, but check this out. I mean, it can grow like crazy sometimes. There it is there. This is some invasive plant, but yeah. And you can get it to be kind of a dark purple, or you can get it to be a bright neon pink, or it can sometimes just be a bit dull. But usually if you don't have high light, it'll just die. Now this is out of water, but yet again, I was going to mention this earlier and I got sidetracked, but you can tell if the leaves underwater are going to bring out a red color or purple color that's intense, because those same anthocyanins, they need to protect the stem. So because the stem is not photosynthetic, doesn't have chlorophyll in it that's useful, the plant uses those anthocyanins and those xanthophylls, the pigments that are in plants. It uses those to protect the tissue. And just like melanin protects human skin from burning, and the darker the skin you have, the less likely you are to burn, or less quickly you burn. It protects the little white stems, because stems are usually going to be white or translucent or light green, on a plant if they're in low light. And so it will turn red, and that's true in a lot of plants, that when they're in their immersed form, you can get a good feeling for aquatic plants anyways, what they're going to do underwater by looking at the stem, because it tells you that they have a reserve of those anthocyanins that they need. And then it actually comes out of the stem, because underwater they're being bombarded by way less light usually. But the Rotala Florida ramosier was first found in 1910, but didn't get reclassified again until 2016. It has white little flowers usually. They can be blue or yellow, reportedly, but it's usually white. It needs CO2 at a pretty good rate. It also needs highlight. And then the lower highlight you have, so if you had like a Fluval 3.0 right above it in like a 20 long or a 40 breeder, you would probably be able to grow it with CO2 and fertilizers and aqua soil, but you'd probably get maybe an inch a month. It's a very slow grower when that happens. And then you start getting algae on the leaves, and then it can be a pain in the butt. So you really need to pile on the light, like get a spotlight or an ADA light or a Kessel light, something that's going to really just charge that up. Or like I said, something that's not in the LED spectrum, something that's in the, silver halide, or one of those lights that I haven't even kept up with, honestly. I haven't kept up with how crazy they've gotten. But yes, let's see here. Kay says Southern California, always too much light. Odyssey is another one that is interesting. Odyssey lights and products. They do one that has a fan, but they have one that's 320 watts. And the par on it is insane. Yeah. So I have a Marimo mossball that explodes in my tank, not like physically, but started growing all over. Yeah, so it's an algae. So what happened is your phosphates and your nitrates just got to a tipping point probably, and it just started to grow. Because those algae, what happens is the Marimo mossballs, they rock back and forth in a lake, along the edge of a lake usually. And that rolling motion in a sphere shape, it keeps it spherical once they've formed around a nucleus. And then all the nitrates and phosphates and things in the water start to actually kind of get stuck in that algae, and it becomes its own little ecosystem. But if you rip that ball in half and or cut it up and throw it all over your aquarium, it'll grow all over. I have in the other room one of my long stick aquascapes. It's got a piece of manzanita in there, and it would grow the whole thing furry, just like a shag carpet. So yeah. And I like it because I'm keeping Stiphodons in there. So they like to graze on the biofilm and the little critters that live in there. All right, let's see here. What other notes did I have on that one? Oh, the other thing that's interesting about that. So this plant, Florida, Rotella Florida, needs calcium. That is the nutrient of the day for this plant. It grows in Florida, and it grows in limestone swamps. Now, limestone's hard, so that's hard water with high TDS, lots of minerality, lots of carbon in there, not in the right form, but with all the life forms that live in a subtropic to tropic swamp, it breaks down even the non what do you call it? Okay, so there's some chemicals that are bioavailable, some elements, and the elements that are not bioavailable, sometimes they get bonded with other things. So carbon can be bioavailable or it can be non-bioavailable, and your plants need to be able to use it. And so they have to break it down. And it's just like when you put dechlorinator in your aquarium, it doesn't get rid of the chlorine. You can't. It's an atomic thing. Well, I guess you could if you got rid of, protons and neutrons and stuff, or you could make it ionized or whatever and lock it into something. But what you're doing is you're really just encapsulating it, and then you're removing the water, or your plants can then deal with it. So in the water in Florida, a lot of that minerality, just because the TDS is high, doesn't always mean that, yes, there may be some sort of carbon citrate or something like that. Carbon. I'm spacing right now on different carbon components, but different carbon compounds, and that's not going to be the same as CO2. Just like liquid carbon is not going to be the same as CO2, even though people will try to sell you that in the bottle. It's different. And so you have to have the right form of the right element or the right nutrient. So yeah. Let's see here. Are you still using your work light? I'm not using my work lights anymore. I burned them out. I left them on while I was out of town for a while, and they just the LEDs are too weak now. They're super weak. Those were Cree LEDs, and it definitely just definitely screwed up on that one. All right, let's see here. Coming on home. Bring it on home, Alex. So the Aponigeton, or Apongeton if you're British, I suppose. But the Aponigeton crispus is another one that I really like. We showed you guys that one the other day, but basically it's from India or Sri Lanka, southern India, Kerala, Goa, those regions. Let's see, fast growing one. It's definitely like a tuber from a little bulb, and it will send out daughter plants. And it needs 25 to 35 degrees Celsius water, so that's pretty hot. I mean, like up into the 80s. Shallow water. It needs soft and acidic water, like a peat moss bog or a pond that's just got leaves and black water in it. Not full black water, but enough to keep the water acidic. Something anywhere from 5 to like 7, which would be neutral. But it doing much better and staying much darker, because anthocyanins, we've talked about this a lot this summer, but anthocyanins, they will be blue when they're in alkaline water, and they will be blood red when they're in acidic water. They'll be purple when they're in neutral water generally. Yeah. Do we have any mods in here? I'm using StreamYard, so it doesn't tell me any of that, but I trust whatever mods want to do with whoever's talking and all that stuff. I mean, I don't really care what's going on, but just y'all be nice. Okay, let's see here. Alex, I might need you to talk me out of buying one of those 70-gallon UNF. Oh, man, I know. Those are pretty sweet. Yeah, those are pretty sweet, dude. I'm not going to talk you out of it, Alan. In fact, I think you should do it because I've been thinking about doing it. Oh, Lemo, right on. You want to do a beta embolus tank, huh? Yeah, those like a bog tank. Be careful. Just don't overdo it. The other thing you need to know is that when you do a bog tank, you can sometimes do so much, so low of pH that you start killing your bacteria. And that's a problem because then you don't have any beneficial bacteria. But when you do that, what you need to really do is you just need to have pre-treated water for water changes ready to go, like a bucket of peat moss soaking, like 10 gallons of peat moss laden water, and then have like a 5-gallon tank. So you just always have refill water for it. That's probably the best way to deal with it, I would say. If your pH is below 6 is when you start to worry about that. Below 5.5 for sure, but that 5.5 to 6 is where bacteria start struggling and changing. Now, there's different bacteria that will establish. It's just harder for them to get in there. It's harder for them to become colonized in your aquarium because we just don't have that many acidic environments all around. So yeah. All right, let's see here. So the next one I wanted to talk about is going to be Cryptnuri, Cryptocarine nuri, discovered in 1935, found from Malaysia archipelago and Malaysian peninsula, across Sumatra and Java. Hard to grow, needs very soft and acidic water generally. Now, that's not always true. I have seen people with harder water grow it. Lucas Bretz has hard water, and he can grow it. But be careful. You can easily shock it. So really, I got a Cryptnuri from him that did great because I have soft water, and it went from hard to soft water. But if you go from soft to hard water, that's a much, much harder transition, and you'll kill your plants usually. If for nothing else, that your peat is real cheap, by the way, I see in the chat. You can usually get that, like coconut husks, peat moss, different stuff. I mean, there's different ways of doing it, but you can get it on the cheap, like $8 or something for like a pound, or $20 for a pound if it's like been sterilized for pets or something. The best place to get all those kind of things, and this is always any hobby, whether it's pets or model making or whatever, you just, yeah, alder cones are great too. Alan, great point. Yeah, they're super, super acidic. Alder cones, I've killed fish with alder cones before. I've put, I think maybe 8 or 9 alder cones in a 5-gallon before, and I killed every freaking what was it? Sunda Danios. So, and those are like, they can take down to 4.0 pH, but I just did it too fast and I killed them. It was like a 5.8 from a 7.0 to a 5.8 drop in 2 days, and it killed them on the second day. Unfortunately, there wasn't any sign of struggling. They just went from swimming around and looking fine to being dead. And so you definitely want to transition your fish into acidic waters. But Cryptnuri or Nurii, there's a lot of different varieties of this one now. Originally, it grows in limestone, creeks and water areas like streams, waterfalls. Usually, it's found next to a stream or a river or a lake on kind of a floodplain where it's dry maybe 8 months of the year and then underwater 4, something like that. There are a lot of varieties from rose and maiden to platinum to robinensis. Or Rabensis, I should say. And that one, you're going to want decent light. It doesn't need to be crazy. It's just you're going to get the coloration a lot better with the light. It's hard to burn the crypts unless you're dealing with some of these crazy lights. And then CO2 is a big plus, but you don't need it. You don't need it at all. So that Cryptneri, let's pull that one up. And Cryptnerii, Cryptocarine. I thought it would pop up right away. All I can think of is Iron Maiden. Mention it, but this is Rose and Maiden. I got some of this from Lucas Brett's. Beautiful plant. There's also watermelon is another variant. Just incredible. Like there's 3 or 4 layers of patterns on that stuff. You can also get this kind that grows more like a. This is the original type, whereas the Rosen Maiden, I believe Rosen and Maiden are 2 different things. So I think the Rosen was the color, and then the Maiden was the way that these leaves flay out and lay down. So you could get like a silver maiden or a green maiden, or you could get Rosen maiden. Rosen, I think, is the German. You can correct me if somebody knows otherwise, but I think I read that a while back. So some you can get in leaves like this, where you've still got the maiden leaf style, but if it's up off the ground, then it has another one. It's called Pahang. And it all depends on where you are in the world, too, to make it even more complicated. But I always just think of Cryptneri Iron Maiden. Run to the hills. Fear of the dark. Fear of the dark. Fear of the dark. There's some that have red in them too. I mean, there's all sorts of varieties now, but they're just a beautimous little plant that I love. And some are yellow, some are green, and then their flowers are just spectacular too. You can cut them open when they flower. This is above water here. And again, this is that beautiful look if you give it space. But most people don't want to put, like, here's some Eriocalans or something like that around them. But most people don't give enough space to these plants. Here is a better version of that even. And they get these interesting, see how this has brown spots and stuff? This is Nerio Nano Mini, which is redundant, but okay. And again, in the wild, you can see sometimes they're dark green. They turn darker and more bold patterns when you get more sunlight, usually. They like lots of flowing water. This one has been in the shade, though, because you can see that the anthocyanins and the ascotaceans and the carotenoids, they're not in the stem much. They don't need to be in there because they haven't had to protect the flesh. So that's why that's happening like that. Whereas when you see the red, it means they've been in higher light usually. And people used to always say, oh, it's the iron in there too. It doesn't have anything to do with iron. Low nitrates and high light can equal that just the same. But that is going to be one of my top favorites. Some of these were going for $500 years ago. Now they're down into the $20, $15 to $100, depending on the variety. It really depends on the variety, but very interesting nonetheless. Yeah, love them. Melissa, welcome. Aquaman, hello. Yeah, 40 breeders are a great grow out tank for like setting up, you know, a nice tank to do that. Yeah. Oh, people will pay thousands of dollars. There was a plant that's well renowned in the hobby. If you've been in the hobby for a while, you know about it. It's called Iguazu 2009. Let me show you this plant. Now, another honorable mention that we'll mention right here too is also purple flame sword. And I'll just spill the beans. I noticed that there's tissue cultures of it on Walmart's website. Don't know why. Don't know if it's any good, but purple flame sword look really cool. Of course, it's going to give me a bunch of silly mythical fantasy stuff. Try that again. Let's try plant. There we go. All right. So yeah, this one can just look really pretty. It's Echinodorus. And it can just be very purple, just like the Aponjatons, Aponigitans. But you can find tissue culture of this now, even though it's a newer morph. And of red, too, for that matter. Prince Kleiner swords, also there's some really strong ones. And melon swords, there's some strong ones. But we're not talking about them today. All right, so we have 2 plants to finish off. I know we're going a little long, but you guys have been awesome tonight. Great questions and, you know, great membership joining and super chats. I really appreciate it. Oh, nice. Alan has an Iguazu Saturn sword. Love it, but snails keep chewing on it. Time to smash all the snails for sure. Smash them. Okay. Yeah, they need tons of light because they have no chlorophyll in them at all. That's what's a pain in the butt. And they need nutrients, and they need acidic water, and they need water flow. I mean, they're a pain in the butt. A lot of these plants are. Blood vomit is a pain in the butt. I mean, a lot of these plants are total pains in the butt. But what were we? Oh, Iguazu. 2009. So this plant, believe it or not, this plant, when it first came out, people were paying over $1,000 for it in Japan. I don't think anybody was that crazy in the US that I've heard, but I do know people paid over $500 for it originally. Pretty crazy. So it still goes for, I still see it listed for like $200 sometimes, which is ridiculous because now people are growing them like this and it doesn't need to be that much, but it is still a very slow growing plant and very high maintenance. But so the next one we're going to do is Hygrophila, which we love our Hygrophila, like the Hygrophila polysperma, which we'll show you that one real quick because I'm not running around to my tanks tonight. It's this one, guys, that you've seen in my tank. It's real pretty, pink with the white variegation. In my video on variegation that I just made last week, I talk all about why things are variegated, what causes variegation, and I show you guys the red, the pink, and the white variegated versions of this in my aquariums. No, it does not need CO2. You can grow it in low tech. And you can actually grow it in medium light. It just looks more like this immersed. It's not very exciting, but it is really beautiful underwater. All right, so Hygrophila. We're going for the Hygrophila lancia. Or this one is really confusingly named. So lancia, Hygrophila lancia. So it's a pretty little plant. It can be nice little colors like yellow and green and bronze and lime green or purple. It has a lot of different mutations, but the one that we're looking for, the newest one, the holy grail lately, is this bad boy. I hope you guys can see that, right? Yeah. All right. So this one is Hygrophila species chai, but it's really Hygrophila lancia, and then it is talk to Crystal Castleman, and then Araguaia, which is a river in Brazil. So the Araguaia or Arguaia is a river in Brazil. Now, this plant is not from Brazil; it's from Southeast Asia. But it was being the Lancia Araguaia is a variety that looks like this, that was being raised in South Singapore, which is funny to me that they in this article they mentioned that it was Southern Farm in Singapore. Singapore is a city state. It's a city that is a country. It is teeny. You can walk across the whole thing in a day. It's in the tip of the Malaysian peninsula. It's just funny to be like, oh well, in southern Singapore. In Singapore, they farm a lot of plants and they grow a lot of fish. But chai is the newest color, and it started off as this browner color of the Araguaia. Now, that's named after a river in the Amazon, and I don't know why the heck we're calling it that, but that's in the name now. I guess that's stuck, whatever. And if you know, please tell me, because Crystal didn't even know why. And then the beautiful versions of this in highlight, acidity, and with good nutrients can look just stunning. I mean, some can look like this soft lilac color, and some can look like a bright purple. Now, this is a plant that ranges anywhere from $40 to $100. Some are pink and green like this. So yeah, there are variations that you can see. That's actually a pretty good representation of all the different chai variations. But this plant was discovered in 1865, and it wasn't until a mutant clone of the Lancia was found in a Singapore farm in 1998 that they called it the Araguaia. Then chai is even more recent, with 2003 being the first mention of chai, and that being brown. And then chai being purple, it looks like 2009, 2010 is when that started getting passed around, as far as I could find. Let's see here. So this is a mid-ground to foreground plant. It grows upright traditionally. This is so morphed out here on this when you see it like this, but it is a stem plant. And it does grow upright in theory. And in less intense light, it does this. It gets leggier quickly. And here you can trim it right below any node, and it will regrow. So it's kind of like just a normal stem plant that way. But it's actually a pretty quick grower. And it grows, or it lives in 6.5 to 7.2 pH, pretty narrow range, needs extremely high CO2 to get the colors that you want, but it can live without the high CO2 and ferts if you just want it to look green or golden or brown. But if you want that purple and pink, you're going to need the highlight and the high look or high CO2 for that look. And it gets over 80 centimeters tall, apparently immersed. So it's one hell of a plant in some cases. So yeah, chai, just like a chai latte, is the name of that one there. But another one that you can do that is you can also get pink panther, pink flamingo crypts. Yeah. Yeah, Aquaman, that is a good point. Singapore uses RO for desalination of water. The whole place uses it. Israel's on the way to doing that too. They want to be water secure and not have to rely on rivers or rainfall or anything like that. And so they're talking about using their desalination to do everything. And they're close. I think they got like 60% capacity last I saw. But yeah, let's see here. Yeah, Hygrophila is a good group of plants in general. They grow quick. They're easy. They're super bulletproof. These ones are touchier. They're inbred. But yeah. Yeah, it can grow tall or it can creep as a foreground. Exactly, UG Aquatics. UG Aquatics is a well informed person. If y'all have questions, I'm just gonna throw them out to the wolves. Obviously, so is Alan, so is Mridjil Singh, so is Han Tron, Tom Barr, any of those people you see in here from time to time. Matthew Wu. But just so you know, because it does deserve an honorable mention. Crypt Pink Panther is like Crypt Pink Flamingo in that one's just the European version and was cloned. So Cryptocorn Pink Flamingo, yes, with good CO2, good nutrition, you can get it to look like this as a big old plant. Usually it's going to look more like this with the greens. But it's real easy to burn this one. It melts really easy. Watch my video on why plants melt. And I think that putting this plant, you're going to get more likely this color. This is a different species. This is Petchii. But you'll get closer to this color a lot of times, these darker colors, rather than some of these have just gotten insane where they're using clone tissue from a really, really light pink strain. But Pink Panther versus Pink Flamingo, pretty much the same thing, just different proprietary names essentially. And they're all just Wendy or Wentii crypt plants. But they are pretty. Pair that with some chai. The last crypt I'm going to mention, and then we've got one plant that's the final plant of the night. I want to see if anybody can guess it. And then my wife needs the living room because I'm going an hour over when I said I would. But Crypt Albida Red is one of my favorites. There we go. Boom. Very beautiful plant. Gets good size, long leaves. It looks just like Crypt Red Tiger Spiralis there. And the textures and patterns on it, they're constantly working on it. It's just a really beautiful plant. It was all over for a while, and now it's harder to find. Things kind of come and go, and it depends on where you live. If you live in the UK, you might be like, oh, that's everywhere I'm at. All right, guys. Oh, man, Aquaman, you are so freaking close. In fact, I'm going to take you there right now because of that. Boost, Brownie Ghost, or Phantom, or Purple, any of those were great. And I used to have some of these. I sold them. I cashed in. Ugh. I took the money and run, babe. I got little teeny pieces of this boost, like the size of a penny. And then I grew it out and then sold it when it looked like this. Just a beautiful plant. This is Brownie Ghost. And this one is just a really cool plant. I don't remember which boost plant species this is from, but boosts are being crossed and being found, and nobody knows what's what or who's poached it out of what place. And because of that, the AGA, the Aquatic Gardeners Association, doesn't even allow boosts to be sold for a long time. Amanda, apparently maybe, but I'm not sure what it is. But Boost Brownie Ghost is the trade name, and there's so many Booses and Homlomenas coming out that are not well-known plants. They don't have Latin names. People are just going into Borneo and ripping them out of the water. But again, there's Chai, there's Albida, there's the black Boost, there is the Signo, there's the well, I don't know for sure what that is, but it looks like maybe Pink Panther. But yeah, you can get these really cool colors in it, and it's just color changing. But yes, Brownie, Bucephalanda, Brownie Ghost. The Brownie in general are all great. So That's not the favorite one of mine, though. The favorite one that I'd love, my new plan is I want to do an aquascape that is, oh, nice. I'd love to see your Bucephalandra Hellfire. Thank you so much, UG. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm sorry if you're on your phone. Things are probably pretty small, but I'm just trying to give you some pictures. Because I don't have them here, because I'd be so broke if I had them. But all right. So the last plant of the night, I'm gonna read its care info. So this plant was discovered not by a poacher, but actually by Wong and Boyce. Now, if you're into Bucephalandras, you know that they've discovered, out of the 38 or 42 recognized species, they've discovered like 80% of them. And it is Bucephalandra kishi or Achilles. We don't know yet. It grows at 1,500 meters. So it grows at 40, what is that? 1,500 meters would be 4,500 feet, 4,500 feet up in the Borneo Mountains in a stream. So it gets cold at night. And this plant does not do well underwater, but people keep on working on it, and they keep on getting it better and better. But what is the last plant on my list going to be? It needs highlight. If it's underwater, it's going to need really highlight. And it has rhizomes. Obviously, it's Boost. If you cover the rhizome at all, it will die instantly. Not instantly, but within a day or two. This one needs lots of flow around it, and it needs lots of O2, which is interesting because of a specific respiration thing that happens with the tissues. The pH needs to be between 6 and 7, and it lives in sandstone and pebble waterfalls. Only is found in falling water, so there's some thought that it likes ozone, because waterfalls produce ions and ozone, and so do lightning storms, which are common in Borneo. But it is Bucephalandra. It's probably one of the more expensive ones still, even though it's been around a little while. Skeleton King. And this one has an awesome texture. There are tissue cultures of it. You can buy it online. Right now, you can buy it, I think, for $59 on boostplant.com for a tissue culture. But it is basically black. It's red and dark green or dark purple or bronze. Kind of depends on what color you see in it. But it's kind of this color changer like most Boost is. And then it's got the blood red stems. And then the real special thing is those leaves. Look at that. I mean, just incredible. And it's a texture to it. Plus, it's a decent sized plant. But as I said, it doesn't like being underwater for very long. So people have been working on how to deal with that. Seems to do best right under a hang off the back filter. So if you're going to try it underwater, do that. But that's probably my favorite one. So yeah. All right. Oh, Kenny, I'm just checking out, brother, but good to see you. And I'm going to announce it one more time because of Kenny. Fishtoberfest. I'll be speaking exactly in a month in Portland. Fishtoberfest. If you're in the tri-state area, you got to check it out. Me, Dan's Fish, who set up Get Gills with the help of others, as well as Lucas Bretz, and then also Jason over at Redfish Bluefish, the tissue culture and mad scientist master over there. So, and of course, Kenny and Danikin Aquatics, Danielle, and Kenny will be there in Seattle holding it down for us. But that is my top 10 ultra rare expensive, hard to keep plants list. And we went over about 20. But thank you so much tonight for all the great questions and all the interesting comments and the super chats and for mods and all that. You guys rock. I appreciate you so much. I got to call it a night. And I hope you guys have a wonderful evening as well. All right, guys, I will talk to you later. The list is under the community tab, by the way, my notes. But to read it off real quick in case you're just wondering, Alex, what were your 10 plants? Aponigeton Crispus purple or red. Hydrocotyl verticillata, which we just blew over. That's the little toadstool one. Crypnuri, Boost Skeleton King, Hygrophila chai, pink. Limno hippodroids, which we didn't get to, but it's a beautiful one too. We'll cover it another time. It can be in low tech too. In fact, mine is in low tech right now. And then we've got Laganandra, Meeboldai, Silver, Bleeding Heart, Red, all of them I love. Ludwigia senegalensis, that's the bright red and orange one. Looks like fire. Fire! And then we got the Rotala Florida, Ramosior, Rosevig, whatever you want to call it. But beautiful, easy to kill, beautiful. And then the Ludwigia inclinata, Cuba White Whirlwind, or World, or Tornado, whatever you want to call it. That's 3 different morphs on the inclinata, but very, very beautiful. Very, very inbred lines. Probably dies easily. Never had it. And then we brought it home with the Skeleton King. All right, guys. I hope you guys have a wonderful day and night, morning, whatever it is where you are. And I'll talk to you guys later. Take care. Thanks again. Bye-bye.